The LAPD has increased the use of body cameras. Some CSUN students gave their opinions on protests against President-elect Donald Trump. A 7.8 magnitude earthquake struck New Zealand.
This is Valley View News.
Hello and welcome to Valley View News. I'm Sophie Ashley.
And I'm Stephanie Bedoya.
Protests have been happening across the nation against President-elect Donald Trump. Many of the protests have been peaceful and marchers encouraged unity, but other demonstrations have turned violent. The disruptive protests led to hundreds of arrests as marchers battled police, blocked highways, and damaged property. Most protesters agree that they can't change the electoral vote count. They are outraged that Hillary Clinton led Trump 48% to 47% in the popular vote.
Valley View News reporter Katerina Kasafis talked with some CSUN students about the Trump demonstrations.
Protesting isn't going to do anything. We have to hit them where it's going to hurt, and that's their pockets. If we were to band together and do something that will affect the economy, that will be more of an impact than just protesting.
I think it's a good way to get people's attention. Definitely the right people to hear your voice, I suppose.
I think it's okay as long as they respect each other and other people's opinions.
In my opinion, I feel like if they were to protest, they should have done it before he was elected. Maybe it would have had more of an effect on the voting or, the outcome of the election.
I've been seeing in the media of all this violence and all these wreckings and fires and all these things, and I just don't think that's right.
It's been over a week since Donald Trump won the presidency, and many Americans are still upset. After Trump was named the next president of the U.S., claims of racial tension have been rising all over the country. Trump addressed the hate issue with CBS's 60 Minutes, saying America needs to stop.
Don't do it. That's terrible, because I'm going to bring this country together. I say stop it if it helps. I will say this, and I'll say it right to the camera, stop it.
Trump went on to say that Americans shouldn't be afraid of his future administration.
Police body cameras are being used more in the Los Angeles Police Department. Reporter Morgan Bertolotti looks into how the police department is attempting to establish public trust.
Police use of force has been heavily scrutinized for more than a year, following several high-profile incidents of violence. The increased attention has renewed calls for law enforcement officers to wear video cameras while on duty. The Los Angeles Police Department is steadily rolling out body cameras across divisions. George DeJesus is a police officer in the Mission Hills Division. He says the body cameras help build public trust and protect officers.
It allows transparency with the public. It allows officers to be exonerated from complaints that pretty much don't exist.
A study published in the Journal of Experimental Criminology looked at how body cameras influence police-citizen interactions. It showed that body cameras helped reduce forceful physical contact by nearly 50%. Tanya Williams is a student preparing for law school. She says body cameras are a good start.
If they're going to be used, but not in a timely manner or through checks and balances, I think you're back to square one with the problem of non-transparency.
People say police body cameras are a sensible solution. They provide another view that may balance what citizens record with their phones. But some people are skeptical. Kasim Nabolsi is a political science professor at Cal State Northridge.
Body cameras will show a narrow spectrum of what things have taken place. They do not see the leading event and the unfolding events that arrived at this point. It does not also capture one of the most important aspects is the psychological impact on the police officer and on the alleged or accused of committing the crime.
The U.S. Justice Department is providing $20 million in grants to help spread the use of police body cameras throughout America. As more law enforcement agencies begin using body cameras, questions emerge as to when they should be turned on and off, and how much footage should be made available to the public. In Simi Valley, Morgan Bertolotti, Valley View News.
The U.S. Customs and Border Protection is sending 150 extra agents to South Texas. The agents were deployed because of an increase in number of undocumented families trying to cross into the U.S. from Mexico. In October, over 46,000 people were apprehended on the border, which was an increase of 5,000 people. The agents will arrive as early as Sunday and will most likely remain there for at least 2 months.
Police officers are using coffee to get to know residents in LA neighborhoods. I spoke with officers about how they're strengthening their relationship with the public. Coffee with a Cop is bringing Los Angeles residents and police officers together. The idea of the event is to help break down barriers between officers and the public over a cup of joe.
Today it's citywide. We can, however, by division, by LAPD division, have coffee with a cop at any time at any McDonald's.
The locations for the event vary throughout Los Angeles, including coffee shops like Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf, as well as McDonald's. Here, officers take the time to talk with residents about concerns they may be having in their neighborhoods.
11 houses in the same neighborhood get burglarized within like a 3 or 4 hour period. And we followed that up with a community meeting with that particular neighborhood. And it was nice to get out and listen to people's fears and have them hear from me and from us, how we're addressing those fears.
The conversation topics include neighborhood issues like car theft to more serious concerns like Black Lives Matter.
There's a lot of negative perceptions out there when it comes to law enforcement. And I really do think that it's in everybody's best interest to have these conversations.
Coffee with the Cop started in 2011 with its first event hosted in Hawthorne. It has spread internationally since. In North Hollywood, I'm Sophie Ashley, Valley View News.
2 people have been killed in a powerful earthquake in New Zealand just after midnight on Monday. The 7.8 magnitude quake also triggered a small tsunami. The remote area of Keikora is home to about 2,000 people and is a popular tourist destination. Police said 1 person died in Keikora and another in a nearby resort in Mount Lyford. Military helicopters and a Navy ship were sent to evacuate those who are still stranded. The helicopters can transport 18 people out at a time, and the ship can carry hundreds of people if weather conditions allowed. Prime Minister John Key toured the area.
You've got to believe it's in the billions of dollars to resolve these issues. They're huge slips. The Manawatu Gorge was a big slip in its own right. There's probably half a dozen of those sitting out there just to the north of Kaikoura. I'm not even sure how long it would actually take to move that level of rubble off the road.
Authorities urge people who work in the city to stay home because some large buildings were unsafe.
A Russian fighter jet has crashed into the Mediterranean Sea after failing to land on an aircraft carrier. Russia's defense ministry said the crash was a result of a technical malfunction. The pilot ejected safely from the plane. The aircraft carrier recently joined about 10 other Russian ships off the Syrian coast. The Russian vessels are supporting Syrian government forces in the country's civil war. NATO says it's worried that planes from the carrier will be used to attack civilians in Syria.
Japan and India say they will cooperate on the peaceful use of nuclear power. Japan Prime Minister Shinzo and the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi signed the nuclear power agreement. The deal will make it possible for Japan to provide parts needed for nuclear power plants in India. The parts are built by the United States and France. The agreement states that Japan can suspend the cooperation if India does any nuclear weapon testing. India agreed to allow inspections by the International Atomic Energy Agency.
California voters came out in favor of legalizing marijuana in the state, but questions remain about how it will work.
Valley View News, Dana Lights talked in Studio B with CSUN political science professor about the future of legal pot.
I'm here with Professor Nicholas Dungy from the CSUN Political Science Department, and we're here talking about the legalization of marijuana and Prop 64. Thank you so much for being here today.
Dana, it's a pleasure.
California said yes on legalizing marijuana. Do you think this is a good idea?
I think it's an extraordinarily good idea. Absolutely, for many reasons, for economic, legal, political, social reasons. It's an excellent decision.
And so now that Prop 64 has passed, what does this mean for California?
Well, it means many things. If you want to talk about the legal process itself, it possibly means a lower or a reduction in people who are incarcerated for nonviolent charges related to the possession of marijuana or drug charges. So in terms of the population, the prison population, and the sort of the process of people involved in the criminal process itself, it's extraordinarily important. And I know that California is under much pressure from the federal government to reduce its prison population. Now, I don't have the exact numbers on me, but I can imagine that a significant number of people currently involved in the state penitentiary system or the criminal process system are there for nonviolent drug offense charges. So this could have an immediate impact on that, and that's a very, very important issue right now. And of course, it could have extraordinary social implications, because whenever you decriminalize an activity, you fundamentally alter and change the way people behave, the way the social relationships are organized, and I think that that is incredibly important to do that.
And so, what do you think this will do for the economy in the short term and the long term?
In the short term, it's impossible to say, and we will not know for at least 2 or 3 years. Colorado went through this a couple of years ago, and they are just now starting to get a handle on the economic benefits, the economic costs. So it's going to be a while until we know. There are going to have to be mechanisms created about how licensing processes and mechanisms about how it is sold, how it's distributed, how revenue is generated, where that revenue goes, because it's still a federal crime. You can't legally sell marijuana. It's still a federal crime. So new banking rules have to be created about how the profits created from the legal sale of marijuana are taxed and are recognized as revenue. So there's much to do in this department, and it will be several years until we really understand in a concrete way what the economic benefits or costs are.
And so in 2010, California had on the ballot to legalize marijuana, and they said no.
Yeah.
Why do you think people had a change in heart in 2016?
I think these things move rather slowly. I think, if I recall correctly, in 2010 it was close. I don't recall the exact number, but I think it was close. So we came close in 2010. And nowadays, 6 years is really not a lot of time, I guess, the way things move so rapidly, the way social opinions about all sorts of things, legalizing marijuana, all sorts of other things that used to be, socially and politically marginalized or questioned. And also, too, I think that several other states, namely Colorado, did it. And Californians have been watching very closely what has happened in Colorado, and it seems to be fairly positive so far.
And so after the elections, now having 8 states legalizing cannabis, do you think this will start a trend and more states will follow suit?
Well, as we were talking off camera, I think if it does start a trend, it will only start a trend in already liberal-oriented states. Many states who are conservative might look at this and say, oh my goodness, we don't want to do that. But it will probably add emphasis to liberal-leaning states who are already thinking about it. But in states in the Midwest and the Southeast where you have very conservative voters and you have very conservative social norms and ideas about drugs, whether it's pot or even alcohol, things like that, probably slower to adopt it.
Okay. And what could be the negative effects of having this prop pass?
The negative effects, I would imagine, are the difficulties creating the proper mechanisms to regulate it and identify its improper use. It will be treated like alcohol. You can't smoke pot in public places. You shouldn't smoke pot and drive your car. It's sort of like alcohol. The same legal prohibitions that govern alcohol govern marijuana. So that's the first thing to know. And second, creating mechanisms to determine when those conditions have been violated, what the penalties ought to be. All of that, I think, will be the most challenging part of it and may create the more complicating elements of that.
Well, thank you so much for everything.
No, it's a pleasure. Nice to be here.
And now back to you in the studio.
Another proposition that passed in California was Prop 51, providing funds for schools. Valley View News reporter Dejanay Howard has looked back on issues of schools.
State Prop 51 is the first education-related bond to be on the ballot since 2006. This proposition approves $9 billion in bonds to upgrade old schools and to build new schools. The remodeling of schools is intended to make these facilities meet the health and safety standards that they are lacking.
Gets them prepared for the future and making sure that their environment in K-5 or K-12 is perfect for their, growth.
I do think that it's good for the schools. Even if we have to pay for it, I feel like the schools should be renovated, and we need to give our kids a brighter future. And by doing that, we create a better America.
Governor Jerry Brown and other officials argue that the proposition leaves disadvantaged schools behind. Some school officials and staff are hoping that Prop 51 is passed because they say that the students are the future. Although some people feel like the schools need to be improved in order for students to get the most effective learning, parent Elsie Ibarra feels like both of her kids are succeeding in their studies regardless of their school's conditions.
I had 2 kids that have gone through the public school system. My son already graduated from high school this past year. His school was a little bit run down, but he had a good experience there.
Some of the main things Prop 51 focused on is developing technology in the classrooms and expanding schools to relieve overcrowding. Back to you.
A former patient at a Pennsylvania mental facility stabbed 6 people before police shot and wounded him. Police say Dustin Johnson targeted the Turtle Creek Valley Mental Health Center. He was reportedly angry about something that happened when he was a patient there. Johnson was armed with 2 knives and what police thought was a gun. They later determined it was a BB gun. The victims were residents and employees of the facility. One victim was in critical condition. SWAT officers say they tried to negotiate with Johnson but opened fire when he didn't cooperate. Johnson was taken to a hospital where he underwent surgery.
We have an update on a story we told you in September about a recovering addict who's disabled. Marisol Hernandez now has prosthetic legs and is learning how to walk. Here's Valley View News reporter Aura Bella Hernandez with a look back at September's story.
Marisol Hernandez is a survivor and still in recovery after years of using drugs. She lost her lower legs and fingers after an overdose.
When I was about 18, 17, 18, when I was in high school, I started trying them.
Hernandez has been suffering from diabetes most of her life and says the mix between not taking care of her disease and the use of methamphetamines led to this consequence.
That was the way it's supposed to happen because I was doing really, really bad. I was already dying because of the drugs. So I think God gave me another opportunity and I'm like, I have to continue. Whatever way I have to do it, I'll do it. I'm like, right now I think nobody can stop me.
Substance abuse counselor Rafael Girardo says that there is no single type of treatment that is going to work for everyone and challenges those who think that the recovery process does not work to keep seeking.
They can do it. They just have to do it and realize that it's going to take a few times, that it doesn't happen overnight. Their addiction didn't start overnight and it's going to take time and support. Each person has to find their way. We support those ways. And that's the issue, that if you're not ready, then you're not ready.
Hernandez is not only celebrating her substance use recovery, but also being a survivor of domestic violence and depression. She says being sober has been one of her greatest accomplishments.
It feels really, really good. It feels awesome.
As we told you in September, Marisol Hernandez is Aura Bella's aunt. PBS NewsHour co-host Gwen Ifill has died after a battle with cancer. The president and CEO of PBS, Paula Kerger, says Ifill died early Monday, surrounded by her family and friends. Ifill moderated the 2004 and 2008 vice presidential debate. She also moderated the 2016 Democratic primary debate. Ifill took a leave of absence from NewsHour as her health declined.
The United Nations says 2016 will be the hottest year on record, a new high for the 3rd year in a row. A report says the global temperature this year is running 1.2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. The El Nino weather pushed temperatures higher early this year, but experts say greenhouse gas emissions are still the strongest factor. The WMO's temperature analysis combines data from several major weather organizations. The forecast for 2017 is another hot year, but probably not a record breaker.
After the break, find out who took the Big West Championship from soccer.
In which UFC fighter became the first in history to hold 2 titles simultaneously.
Don't worry, 74 people were picked before me in the NFL draft. To fight childhood obesity, United Way and the NFL are helping kids play at least 60 minutes a day.
Okay, time for the team obstacle course. Yay!
What this place needs is more healthy kids. To get involved or donate, go to unitedway.org/play60.
Now I get it.
Ms. Stevens, I just wiped malware off our system. People have got to stop clicking unsolicited email links and downloading free software unless it's from a trusted source.
Sounds great.
We need a data backup plan in a separate location in case we get hacked.
We need to focus on making profits, not spending them.
Learn to protect yourself from ransomware. If you become a victim, contact your local FBI office.
Now let's go to Celine Zavala with the latest in sports.
Thank you, Sophie. History was made in the UFC world at Madison Square Garden. Conor McGregor is now the first UFC fighter to hold both the featherweight and lightweight titles. In the main event, McGregor went up against Eddie Alvarez. McGregor knocked out Alvarez in the second round. The fights leading up to the main event included Tyrone Woodley and Stephen Thompson fighting to a majority draw. The judges came to a unanimous decision with Raquel Pennington versus Miesha Tate. The CSUN men's soccer team beat Cal State Fullerton to win the 2016 Big West Conference Soccer Championship. The match went into overtime after both teams were deadlocked 1-1. CSUN scored the winning goal during the second half of overtime with only 52 seconds left. This is the second time CSUN has won the Big West tournament. The Matadors won their first championship in 2012. CSUN will host University of the Pacific as they advance to the NCAA tournament in hopes of winning the national title. It was a good day to be a football fan. The Pittsburgh Steelers and the Dallas Cowboys gave their fans just what they wanted. NFL analysts say this could have been the best game of the 2016 season. Cowboys rookie Ezekiel Elliott led Dallas to victory with 209 yards and 3 touchdowns. Despite Ben Roethlisberger's great performance, the Steelers lost their 4th game in a row. The Steelers are now 4-5, while the Cowboys hold an impressive record of 8-1. The Cleveland Browns have yet to win a game. The team is 0-10 on the season. Head coach Hugh Jackson benched rookie quarterback Cody Kessler because of his poor performance against the Ravens. It is still possible that quarterback Robert Griffin could return to the lineup late in the season from his shoulder injury. The Browns will play the Pittsburgh Steelers next week. The Los Angeles Dodgers finally have something to celebrate. Shortstop Corey Seager won the National League Rookie of the Year award. It was a unanimous vote by the Baseball Writers of America. The slugger finished his first year with 26 home runs, 72 runs batted in, and .308 batting average. That isn't a surprise that Seager won the award. Glad a Dodger won. Now back to you.
Up next, find out which stand-up comedian made a guest appearance on Saturday Night Live.
Which famous singer was the first to perform at the site of last year's Paris terrorist attacks? All that and more after the break.
Okay, so we drowned the fire, stirred it, drowned it again, and now just feel if it's cold.
Yeah.
Cool.
Smokey just gave me a bear hug.
I know. I already posted it.
Every time I hear the alarm bell go off in school, I think it's an air raid.
A lot of houses in our neighborhood have been destroyed. I like to close my ears and sing songs whenever the bombs come close.
I'm worried our new neighbors won't like us.
But I know it's all gonna be worth it. I just want my family to be safe. But these are not my words.
These are not my words.
These are not my words.
It's a short ride from your neighborhood to your naturehood. To find a neighborhood park or green space near you, visit discovertheforest.org.
Now let's go to Gabrielle Ortega with the latest in entertainment.
Thanks, Stephanie. Comedian Dave Chappelle made a surprise appearance on the television show Saturday Night Live. After the election of Donald Trump, Chappelle had a message for the president-elect.
I'm wishing Donald Trump luck, and I'm going to give him a chance. And we, the historically disenfranchised, demand that he give us one too. Thank you very much.
The comedian also told the audience how proud he was of President Obama and the changes he has brought to the world. Chappelle was last seen on television on his own show in 2006. Rock and roll legend Leon Russell has died at the age of 74. Russell's website reported his death but gave no specific cause. He was known for his many hits and his performing style. In 2011, the singer was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame after his collaboration with Elton John. During his career, he had several health scares. Most recently, Russell had a heart attack and underwent surgery. Sting has become the first artist to perform at the Bataclan in Paris since last year's terror attacks. Sting opened the show with a moment of silence for the 90 concertgoers who were killed in the attacks. The Bataclan remained closed until the show. Last November, 3 gunmen entered the small concert hall and opened fire while the rock band Eagles of Death Metal performed. Sting said all proceeds from his show at the Bataclan will be donated to the organization supporting the victims of the attacks and their families. It just got harder for fans to keep up with the Kardashians. Kendall Jenner has left Instagram. The model posted a picture on Instagram Sunday, then later deleted her account. Jenner did not give any reason for leaving the social media platform. Many of her fans are confused about the model's decision to stay off social media. The science fiction bicycle from Tron is now real. The cyclotron has the same name and look as a futuristic bike in the movie. The wheels light up when it's dark and can run for 8 hours. It also has red laser lines to show bike lanes for safety. Solid polymer tires require no air and are estimated to last over 6,000 miles. The bike includes many sensors that provide speed, navigation, and other riding data. People who sign up to buy early pay $1,000 and others will pay about $1,300. The cyclotron will be available next summer. What astronomers call the supermoon has appeared in the night sky. It's the largest full moon visible in nearly 70 years. A supermoon occurs when the full moon reaches its closest point to the Earth along its orbits. The most recent supermoon is the closest full moon since 1948. The next one is expected to appear 18 years from now, in 2034. And that's all for entertainment. Now back to you.
Thank you for watching Valley View News. I'm Sophie Ashley.
And I'm Stephanie Bedoya. We'll see you next week.